What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm here with you today. This is going to be my post-game video. I know I'm making it the day after. That is in large part because yesterday, early afternoon, around noon, I decided to lay down to take a short nap, ideally for an hour and a half-ish, and I ended up sleeping for like 8 hours. So I kind of missed the game live. Like I woke up at with 2 minutes left in the game. So I missed my, live stream during the game, but I did do a live stream last night. A couple people did come in and talk to me, and I appreciate that. I did it just because I wanted to have, a stream with my live reactions to what was going on. Ironically enough, though, I ended up doing a lot of conversing with people as opposed to watching the game. Although I did watch it, and whatever. And we'll go over that in a minute. But before I get there, I do have a bunch of news and stuff to talk about. But first of all, I wanted to apologize for that. I am super sorry. I know I suck. Yeah. So I don't know what else to say. I am sorry about that. And I will be better in the future. I swear. I promise. But yeah, so obviously, we're getting ready to kick off the season against the Ravens at home in Miami. Although, Hurricane Dorian, which is expected to be, Category 4, is supposed to be hitting Florida in the very near future. So don't be surprised if this team has to deal with similar things to what happened in 2017 under Adam Gase, with the hurricane and the displacement. So hopefully that doesn't happen, and hopefully if it does happen, everybody's okay and all that stuff. But that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. Alright, so there's a lot to get to, so let's just dive right into this. First and foremost, there's this article on Bleacher Report from Pro Football Talk, rather. Josh Rosen still thinks Dolphins are eventually his team. Rosen was disappointed but unbowed. Despite losing the competition for the Dolphins starting quarterback job to Ryan Fitzpatrick, Rosen said he was proud of the strides he made and sounded confident after he got the news from Coach Brian Flores. That's really all I need to read from this, because it just leads into the conversation. So, first of all, as you guys know, I'm sure, Brian Flores officially announced quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick to be the guy, as I had been saying all along was going to be the case. I thought it was pretty evident based off of performance and stuff. Past history, performance in OTAs and training camp, in the games and stuff, and past history. Yes, Rosen closed the gap, but that was more because Fitzpatrick was kind of falling off. But it was pretty evident to me that they were going to end up going with Fitzpatrick to the start. And not only have I been saying that all along, but my prediction is that he will play somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks before he either gets injured behind the terrible offensive line or before he performs so bad that there is, a demand for him to be replaced by Josh Rosen. My guess is somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks. So, we will see how that plays out. But to, Josh Rosen's optimism and so on and so forth. Look, I like his enthusiasm. I like his, confidence and stuff like that. But I'm sorry, Rosen, this team's never going to be yours. It's never going to be yours. Why? Because, one, he has Ryan Fitzpatrick ahead of him right now. Two, and he wasn't, able to prove he deserves the spot over Fitzpatrick, which is problematic, I think, and an indictment on him overall. But also because, this year is not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. And, when he does go in, it's going to be a lot like last year. You'll see a lot like last year, like what was seen from him out of Arizona, because the offensive line is not going to be good. And, so he's going to struggle very mightily. And then, odds are we're going to end up, the way I see things playing out right now is next year we're going to end up taking a quarterback high in the draft. Probably Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert. And then if that happens, then, and especially also with the way Jake Rudock has been playing, he's been playing pretty damn good and has shown, obviously it's against, backups and stuff, mostly to put it into context and to be fair, but he has been playing well enough to deserve at least being put on the practice squad and being kept around, to evaluate next year. Yeah, and so with that and the fact that I'm almost certain they're going to take a quarterback next year, it looks like Josh Rosen's, chances of sticking in Miami are slimming as time goes on. So, obviously, you never know. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's in the cards for him to be, the franchise quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. Also, real quick, excuse me. It looks like Hall of Fame lineman Jim Langer has died. So obviously a Dolphins Hall of Famer on the offensive line. He dies at age 71. Condolences and, prayers, wishes, all that good stuff goes out to his family. And we hope, we hope him well. Obviously. Okay, so more news. The Dolphins have made a trade with the Minnesota Vikings for guard Danny Isidora, who was a former 7th round pick of the Minnesota Vikings. From what I've been reading, he was a 7th round pick of the Minnesota Vikings, and we gave up a 7th round pick from next year. So, first of all, it's about time they did something with the offensive line. This kid has potential. He has upside. So yeah, that's the good, right? That's the good of this. There is some bad about this. One, what does it say about him that, the Colts were ready to get rid of, not the Colts, the Vikings were ready to get rid of him after just a year? That says something. It's a small piece of the context, but it's a piece of the context nonetheless. We gave up a draft pick for him from next year. Yes, I do think the offensive line is a pressing need. However, I wouldn't have traded draft capital away to get a guy, especially a guy, that is a super big mystery, doesn't have a lot of production. I think he's played in 3 games ever. And so it's also really late in the game too. Training camp's over, the season's about to start. So obviously he's not going to even really give you anything, possibly the entire year, right? So maybe at some point he jumps up in there into the starting lineup if our offensive line's bad enough. And he deserves to get those reps, maybe, and it's possible, right? Will he usurp Daniel Kilgore? Probably not. Oh no, wait, he's a guard. Sorry. So it would be Michael Dieter, our 3rd round pick this year, or Shaq Calhoun. It would be one of those guys. But so look, I'm kind of just neutral on it. I think it's definitely late in the game. He's not going to really give you any kind of, production or anything right now, probably not even this year. And we traded away draft capital, so I lean a little bit more towards the, why, and that I don't agree with it, but overall I'm probably kind of just indifferent. And And I am happy that they actually did something about the offensive line. Now, there is another acquisition. Dolphins have acquired Colts offensive lineman Evan Boehm for a 2020 pick swap. So all they did there was swap picks. He's played 42 games, 13 starts for the Colts at center and guard. But again, you know, a guy late in the game. They didn't give away draft capital. They just swapped it. So that's fine. You know, that's not a big deal, whatever. We didn't lose any draft capital, and this dude definitely has more experience, but I mean, again, you know, it's late in the game. He's probably not going to provide you with anything now, but I'm glad that they did actually do something finally for, you know, to address the offensive line. And apparently it also looks like the Dolphins have released wide receiver Bryce Butler. So there's that. Man, I mean, oh, well, you know, they signed a couple guys, but they also got rid of some guys on the offensive line too, as I'm looking through this, because they have to cut down. So, you know, Dolphins release undrafted BC offensive lineman Aaron Montero. Dolphins cut guard center Kyle Fuller. Dolphins cut rookie defensive tackle Corey Thomas. Cut cornerback David Rivers. Release cornerback Tyler Patman. Cut wide receiver Reese Horn. Let's see. Have waived defensive tackle Joey Imubu. Let's see. Anything else? Release cornerback Jalen Davis, offensive lineman Michael Dunn. So they've released more offensive. So as I'm actually reading through this stream right now as I'm making this video. So that makes me like those other moves even less actually now, because they have released a bunch of offensive linemen. Released wide receiver Trenton Irwin. Released injured quarterback Quentin Poling. Jesus. Oh my God. Man. I mean, obviously they have to, do cut downs, but I mean, Quentin Poling was a draft pick of ours. We need help at linebacker, especially with some of the other news that's coming out, which I'll get to in just a second. So right now it looks like those are all of the, cuts and trim downs up to this point. And so we brought in those two offensive linemen. Man. Yeah, so anyway, also too, real quick, on the Jadeveon Clowney thing, right? So it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but that's mostly, it seems, because Jadeveon Clowney does not want to come to Miami. And that's because he wants to play for a contender, which we are not going to be. So from what it appears, it's no short order from the Dolphins. They were in serious talks, although apparently, the Texans wanted Tunsil, and from how it seems, the Dolphins are not willing to do that. Also, he would be a considerable cap hit. It doesn't take one player to solve the problems on the team. So there's that. Also, he has a significant, injury history. He still hasn't signed his franchise tag. There's just a lot about that wouldn't be good. Also, there were reports that the team would riot if they traded Tunsil, which I would totally agree with, because that would be the absolute stupidest thing, or one of the absolute stupidest things that you could possibly do. So I would totally agree with that. But that doesn't say very good things about the coaching staff and how well they've got a grasp on the guys and how much they've got them to buy in. Because if the team would be willing, sure, it would be under those, specific conditions. But if they'd be willing to riot at all, that doesn't show good signs that you really have a hold of your roster as a head coach and as a regime. And I would venture to guess it has a lot to do with how Brian Flores approached the Kenny Stills situation. And also, if they traded Kenny Stills, that would also be just an absolute disaster. And, someone yesterday when I was doing my live stream got up in the chat and was like, he should be traded because he's a distraction. No. If they wanted this to go away, Brian Flores should have handled it way different. Instead of saying, hey, you should fucking talk to Ross and be a company man, in his first couple responses, he should have backed them up right from the get-go and not have, the third time when asked about it, then backtracked and been like, oh yeah, but I support what they do because, I've experienced the same things. Like, what the fuck kind of response is that? And it's late as fuck, dude. So I guarantee that there are people on the team that didn't want that. And look, Jadeveon Clowney doesn't want to be here. You saw guys like Cameron Wake and stuff leaving the offseason because they, realized what was going on with this team and how it's falling apart. Also, the next thing that I do want to get into is Dolphins trade rumors. Kiko Alonso requests to be moved amid rebuild. Leading up to Sunday's deadline for teams to trim their rosters, Kiko Alonso reportedly wants to be traded. Now, you could probably get some draft capital out of that or whatever, but that's also not a good thing. One, because you need linebackers right now. We're starting to get thinned out, because of injuries, because of now cuts and stuff like that. Also, he's a leader on your team. He's been very productive for you. And it also doesn't show good signs that people don't want to play in Miami. When Adam Gase was here, I don't give a fuck what kind of stupid shit people want to say about him. When Adam Gase was here, players wanted to come and play for him. When he got fired, coaches and players were lined up outside of his office to say bye and wish him well. Players came out and spoke up for him afterwards immediately. So, I mean, it's not good things. It's not good things. All right. So, having got through that, that's all of the main news and stuff that appears to be out. There's probably going to be more. Obviously, they need to, finish trimming down the roster so we do know who the final 53 is. When that happens, I will definitely, make another video. I want to get into this game though, real quick and break it down. So first and foremost, before going into this game, you kind of wonder, well, what is it we're looking for, right? Obviously, none of the starters are going to play. Albert Wilson did play for a short bit, got a couple catches. So, I guess there's that, and that's cool. It's good that he's back out on the field and able to, play again. So that is a good sign. But aside from that, obviously none of the starters were going to play and stuff like that. Although, to be clear and honest and in full context, I mean, we don't even know what our starting unit really is like almost on either side of the ball because half of the guys have been out the entire time. 2 weeks ago they were out. Last week during the dress rehearsal they were out. So we don't even really know what our starting lineup is going to be or how to evaluate them. Right? And so, and frankly, even when the starting unit was in, the defense did solid, but the offense was putrid, right? And so the best production we've had has been from Jake Rudock and, third, fourth, fifth string backups and so on. So that's also not a good sign, right? But in this game, we're just trying to see some guys that stood out. Chris Myarick, the tight end, stood out. There's a couple guys that did some good things. Mark Walton stood out in this game. Jake Rudock stood out in this game. So there were some guys that stood out, but ultimately, I mean, Yeah, so let's get into it though. The Dolphins obviously won, so that's fun. 16-13. It was obviously a low-scoring game, mostly defensive. You know, we only scored 1 touchdown and had to settle for 3 field goals, and that's with the best offensive unit that we've seen on the field so far, which has been Jake Rudock and third stringers or below. You know, not even first or second string guys. So that's super problematic. Just in, the Dolphins cut long snapper Wes Farnsworth. John Denny is going to continue as the long snapper. That's, yeah, kind of expected that. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to keep an eye on this as I'm going here just to make sure, you know, I don't miss anything as we go. But yeah, so, even they couldn't really punch it in except for just one time, which is, you know, troubling because, you know, a lot of that was against their backups, obviously, so it's not like the level of competition we were playing against was all that great, to be fair and to keep it into context. And also, a lot of those guys that played probably aren't going to be on the team, most likely won't be on the team going forward. So, you know, that's kind of pointless too, right? Like it doesn't really show anything, you know, for the future. So yeah, I mean, like there's just so much. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, well, look, I'm honestly, I'm ready for this first game because all it's been up to this point is speculation. I have a feeling I'm going to be proven right on a lot of the things that I've said, which will be unfortunate, but, you know, it is what it is. Hopefully they prove me wrong. We'll have to wait and see. We do have a tough schedule, and, you know, it's highly unlikely. So, but we'll see how things go. And again, hopefully they prove me wrong. But let's get into these stats. We had 345 total yards. Not terrible. Obviously, like I said, you want to try and be above 400 total yards with 300 passing and 100 rushing. We didn't crack that. We haven't cracked that in any of our games. But this was the best one. The stats in this game were better than any of our other games. And that is problematic because half these guys won't be on the team, and like none of these guys except for Albert Wilson will actually even play. And yeah, so it's, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is, right? But they had 305 total yards. Again, and I mean, in this game, the defense played well overall. Again, I do think that the defense will be our strong suit, but I think that they will get worn down, they will get tired, and then whatever flaws the defense has, I'm not sure yet, because they have played well, and haven't shown any significant flaws, or glaring obvious ones, but they will be exposed as the year progresses and they get worn down and beat down and stuff because the offense is not providing support and playing complementary football, and the defense will have to stay on the field for too long. And any success that they do have will be overshadowed by the fact that the offense is playing so putrid and that the team is losing. Because again, we have a tough fucking schedule starting with the Ravens in week 1, which could potentially even, depending on how this hurricane goes, get, you know, moved and whatever. And it's even possible, you know, once again we end up losing our bye, which I believe is in week 5. It's early this week or this year. So, which I don't like either. I prefer mid-year or late year buys personally. I think it's the most beneficial for the guys, and then gives you a rest period, you know, in the middle of the year or late in the year for the, you know, the last stretch. But there is potential. It's obviously no guarantee yet, but if this hurricane, it's supposed to be a category 4, if it hits, causes destruction and the team has to be displaced, then they won't be playing their first game at home. So we'll lose a home game, and although theoretically it could be rescheduled as a home game, but there's also potential that we could lose our bye. I don't know what the Ravens bye is, so it would have to match up. But if not, then it just, you know, they would have to relocate the game. I don't know. There's a but you know, maybe we would lose a home game and have to go play in Baltimore, which would suck. So there's a lot to keep an eye on there, and a lot of, whatever. So for passing yardage, we had 228. Obviously, like I said, you want to try and break 300, but we kept them to 181, which is good. Rushing yards, we had 117, which is good on our side, because again, you want to try and at least break that 100-yard mark in the rushing game. But again, this is against, backups, third string guys and below. Most of which won't be playing in the NFL, most of which won't be playing on their squad, so on and so forth. So take that for what you will. But we also did let up 124 yards on the ground, which is not so good. Yeah, so... Oh, man. So real quick... I just got, because like I said, I'm keeping an eye on these updates. So Matthew Kanata posted a tweet. Dolphins quietly bring up Tunsil's name in a trade. We break it. Dolphins think they shut it down. So it looks like, I don't know, but it looks like the Dolphins, based off of that, the Dolphins offered up Tunsil, which would be a terrible thing. And even just the fact that that tweet's out there, and now that rumor's out there, is not going to spell good things. And I would venture to guess that seeds a little bit more, doubt and dissension amongst the ranks. He continues, all is quiet, and then mainstream media picks up the story that Tunsil is in fact being discussed in an offer. Clowney doesn't want to come. If no deal, it's a big L for Miami. Okay, apparently, Matthew Kanata thinks they should do that, which there are a bunch of people who think that should happen, which is absolutely absurd. Why would you get rid of the one offensive lineman that has, not just starter, starter caliber, but is also, like Pro Bowl caliber and potentially one day Hall of Fame caliber? Why would you do that? Right? And then you drafted the guy also, just none of it makes any fucking sense. He's your blindside blocker, right? The rest of your offensive line is super questionable. Why would you do that? None of that makes any fucking sense. Even if you got Clowney and a first round pick, it's super nonsensical. So he's an idiot on that front. And then not to mention, the team said that they would riot. Like, are you fucking stupid? You would really not only fucking absolutely destroy your offensive line, but then you want your team to fucking revolt and riot? What a fucking idiot. Anyway, but apparently though, the Dolphins offered him up, which is not a good thing. Anyway, the Phins Zone replied to that, big L with a question mark. Resign Tunsil now and run away as the clear winners. Simple as that. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. I've been saying that they need to make sure that they sign him next season, since they exercised his 5th-year option this year, which I thought was a solid move. But they do absolutely have to lock him down. If they trade him, they're done. They're done. It would be the stupidest fucking thing that they could ever do. So real quick, just to continue on with that, 200K LUD, whatever. This is the dude's fucking Twitter handle. Tunsil has never made the Pro Bowl. Clowney has 3 times. Don't kid yourself. Really, bro? Before I get to Finzone's response, are you serious? Tunsil's never been to the Pro Bowl yet because he's been on a shitty fucking team. Overall, and like, are you fucking kidding me? Clowney has spent significant time out. Tunsil hasn't, due to injury. Yeah, he's got the production when he has played, but he doesn't want to be here. He's going to be a massive cap number. And it doesn't take one guy to fix this team, especially you would further weaken what is expected to be a putrid offense to strengthen your already strength on the team. That doesn't make any sense. You need to balance out. So let's get to his response. Don't kid myself. Ask yourself why the Texans had to throw an extra first-round pick on top of Clowney, and it still wasn't enough. Tunsil's legit. Might not have gotten the fan vote, but people who know football know that Tunsil is a premier talent at a premier position. Facts. Like, it's fucking mind-boggling. People are so fucking stupid. It's just retarded. Anyway, moving on. We had 5.5 yards per play, which is good, but we did let up 5.8. So, you know, it did improve. Yeah, and I just keep seeing more and more reports about, you know, Clowney being adamant about not wanting to come to Miami. You know, surprise, whatever. Dolphins cut running back Kenneth Farrow. So there's another update for you. But look, like I said, I mean, this is the best production that we had. Neither team had fumbles. Neither team had interceptions. We were 54% on third downs, but we did let up 50%. But again, this is from Jake Rudock and fucking third string and on, right? And a lot of these guys are being cut now. We had the ball for 26-43. They had it for 33-17. What that does mean is that we were efficient overall in our time having the ball. But again, it's a third string quarterback with third string or lower guys around him. We only had 4 penalties, so that's a drastic improvement over the previous games. They had 6. In the passing game, Jake Rudock was 22 of 29, 76 completion percentage, 229 yards and a touchdown. Overall, solid showing. Again, you do want to try to break 300 ideally, but it was a strong showing, and Jake Rudock has been playing really well overall, and I think is going to play a factor into, you know, why Ryan Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen are not going to be on the team next year. For them, Taysom Hill was 13 of 17, 77% completion percentage with 100 yards. Teddy Bridgewater was 9 of 13, 69.2 completion percentage, 83 yards and a touchdown. For us, Mark Walton led the way, 12 rushes for rushing, 12 rushes, 52 yards and a 4.3 average. Like I said, he was a big bright spot in this game, and you know, showed some things, which is good because Patrick Laird was really starting to show him up. Myles Gaskin had 8 rushes for 48 yards and a 6 average, and Patrick Laird had 6 rushes, 13 yards and a 2.2 average. Taysom Hill led the way for them, 5 rushes for 35 yards and a 7 average. Jacquizz Rodgers had 7 rushes, 33 yards, a score, and a 4.7 average. Devine Ozigbo, 4 rushes, 22 yards and a 5.5 average. And Kerwin Williams, 4 rushes, 16 yards and a 4 average. For us, receiving, Chris Myarick, tight end, 6 of 6 for 78 yards. Again, he was another bright spot for us. Isaiah Ford, 3 of 4 for 37 yards. Chandler Cox, 2 of 3, 25 yards. Bryce Butler, 2 of 5, 18 yards, who, as we know, got cut. Myles Gaskin, 2 of 2, 17 yards. Albert Wilson, 2 of 2, 16. TJ Ramming, 1 of 1, 15. And Patrick Laird, 1 of 1 for 15. For them, Lil Jordan Humphrey led the way. He was 1 for 1 for 43 yards. So, absolutely no disrespect to this guy. I'm not hating at all. I just think his name is super fascinating, and I made a comment about this when I was watching the game. His name is Lil Jordan. L-I-L, comma, or apostrophe, Jordan. It's like his parents wanted this kid to be a rapper, like, right from the beginning. Right? His name is Lil Jordan. Like, that's actually his legit name, which I think is cool and it's fascinating. Like I said, no hate or anything. I find it really fascinating, right? They named the dude Lil Jordan. Like, they really wanted this kid to be a rapper. But hey, at least he made it to an NFL roster, and it looks like he stands a solid chance of either being on their roster or somebody else's roster. So good on him. He was successful. And he's got a fascinating name. Let's see. Yep, I was just checking really quick to see if there are any more updates. It does not look like it yet, so we'll keep an eye on that. Simi Cobbs had was 6 of 7 for 42 yards. Cyril Grayson was 3 of 3 for 39. Emmanuel Butler 2 of 4 for 20 and a touchdown. And Travin Durrell 1 of 2 for 11 yards. There were no fumbles lost by any team, although Taysom Hill did have one. Let's see, and defensively, Terrence Smith led the way for us. 5 solo tackles, 3 assisted. Torrey McTyer, 5 solo, 2 assisted. Maurice Smith, 4 solo, 2 assisted, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a pass defense. Trey Watson, 4 solo, 6 assisted. Nick DeLuca, 3 solo, 3 assisted. Dwayne Hendricks, 3 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 forced fumble. David Rivers, who I believe got cut already, had 3 solo tackles. Nick Needham, 2 solo, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 forced, no. I'm sorry. Excuse me. He had 2 solo tackles and a tackle for loss. For them, Darnell Sankey led the way, 5 solo, 3 assisted tackles. JT Gray, 5 solo, 5 assisted, a tackle for loss. Chris Banjo, 4 solo, 1 assisted. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, 3 solo, 2 assisted, and a tackle for loss. Geno Grisham, 3 solo tackles. Ken Crawley, 2 solo tackles with a pass defense. Ziggy Hood, 1 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Will Compton, 1 solo, 3 assisted with 1 tackle for loss. Corbin Kaufusi, 1 solo, 1 assisted and a pass defense. And Shai Tuttle, 1 solo, 1 assisted and a pass defense. In the kicking game, Jason Sanders was perfect on his field goals, 3 of 3 with a long of 46, and perfect on his 1 extra point. Will Lutz didn't have any field goals, but was good on his 1 extra point. Matt Hawk, Matt Hawk had 3 punts for a 49 average, 2 inside the 20 with a long of 61. Solid overall showing from him. Thomas Morstead had 4 punts for them, 49 average, 3 inside the 20 with a long of 56. We did not have any kickoff returns. Cyril Grayson had all of their returns, 3 of them, 22.7 average with a long of 26. In the punt game, TJ Ramming had 2 returns for us with a 3.5 average, long of 7, and Cyril Grayson had 1 with an average of 5 for them. Yeah, so that's that. We can start turning the page now. Obviously, they are doing... So this is real quick before I go. I'm going to read this because I've been saying the same thing. So a tweet from Mike Tanier. I'm also not as confident that the new Dolphins regime has any idea what it's doing as I was a few weeks ago. Look, I've said the same thing. I have no idea what the fuck they're doing. Like, I mean, when I put it all together, the only thing that seems logical is that they're trying to tank and that they're trying to fucking, but I mean, like, almost none of what they're doing seems to be beneficial for the long term. I mean, they're creating dissension amongst their ranks, so they're not even being successful at building the culture or getting guys to buy in. They did massive purges. They're just releasing guys like TJ McDonald for no reason. They're creating holes on their roster. They're talking about doing stupid, nonsensical trades, to get a guy that fucking doesn't want to be here, who's going to be a major cap hit, who's not going to solve the problems on your team. And you want to get rid of, like, your fucking top offensive lineman, the one guy. I mean, like, just none of it makes any fucking sense. So, we'll see. But, man, we'll keep a track on, this roster and how it breaks down, as it continues. But, now we can start turning the page. Sunday, September 8th is our first game. It's against the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, again, we have to keep an eye on the hurricane and see how that may or may not affect the game. Maybe if it hits, it'll be early enough. I mean, it's a week away, so roughly a week away. So I mean, it could affect that. We don't know, but it's against the Baltimore Ravens as of right now. Sunday, September 8th, 10 a.m. here on the West Coast, 1 p.m. on the East Coast. Almost every single one of our games is like that because, you know, the league doesn't expect us to be any good, so they don't care to put us on national television or anything like that. I think we do actually have one game. It is, yeah, Monday. It's a Monday game against the Steelers. So great. We get to go, and I'm pretty sure it's in Pittsburgh. It does appear, yep, it does appear as if it's in Pittsburgh, so we can expect to get our asses handed to us on Monday Night Football. Fabulous. That's lovely. Well, anyway, so that's all I've got for you guys for right now. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more news coming with the rest of the cuts. As of right now, though, you know, once I finish this video, I'm just going to let them, you know, pile in, and then I will do a video on the final 53-man roster, and we will evaluate where we are then and see how we feel about it. Anyway, like I said, that's all I got for you guys right now. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. I hope you do enjoy my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.